From 1836 until 1989, this was the only maximum security prison for adult male offenders that was run by the state of Missouri. They believed that basically convicts had nothing coming. They believed that the harsher the punishment and the harsher the conditions, the better it was. Our first mayor in Jefferson City, General Thomas Lawson Price, who was the mayor in 1839, he actually was one of the first lessees of the prison. He took advantage of the use of prison labor. And that's where you got the zebra striped uniform, the cat o' nine tails, where people could be whipped up to 150 lashes. And individuals died right in this very building from that type of treatment. This building was constructed circa 1865 and opened in 1868. You can see the barrel vault ceiling. And if you were to take that plaster off, you would see horsehair under it. Underneath that tile floor, that's a later tile floor that was added. But right outside, you can see the big blocks of stone. So that would all be stone underneath there that would have been quarried by the inmates. And when you see the outside in front of this building, you'll see the marks in the stone where they actually drove their wedges down and split the stone out in the quarry. All the doors would have been this particular height right here. Initially, been made by a blacksmith. That was part of that Auburn system, and I'm short. I'm about 5'7½", but that's even too short for me. And so they wanted you to have to bend down every time you went in and out of the cell. And the doors were all this particular height until right around 1939, when they upgraded the cell block and put the taller doors on. And of course, the taller doors are antiquated themselves now. We had the largest saddle tree factory in the world in this prison, the J.S. Sullivan Saddle Tree Factory. And a saddle tree is the wooden frame over which the leather goes to form a saddle. And this prison made 60,000 saddle trees a year. And they were shipped all over. We had a twine plant, we had a wagon factory at one time, there were brickyards, there were quarries all over Jefferson City that were operated by the inmates from here. So this was a very, very large operation, and it made some people very, very wealthy. At one time, I think it was a commissary for the building, but they also said that the whipping post used to be down here for this building. And there are dungeon cells down here, and that would kind of make sense. So we'll go down here and unlock this. So when you come in over here, you're going to see the dungeon. They could put you in the dungeon cells. And they wouldn't just put one person in a dungeon cell necessarily. They may put 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people in the dungeon cell with you. Imagine, look how smooth that floor has been worn. That bench would not have been in there. And those men slept on the floor. And imagine the feet going back thousands of times in total darkness. We're entering what was called H Hall and Housing Unit 1. Became known as Housing Unit 1 later on. And initially this would have been the women's unit when it opened circa about 1906. The federal prison system never had prisons for women until around 1925, 1927. The blind cell was actually the female equivalent to administrative segregation or the hole, or the dungeon cells. And you can see a toilet stool in there now, but that toilet stool would not have been there when they were here. They talked about how very cold it was in there and how very hot it got in the summer. This unit down here, this was administrative segregation, and also later it became death row. And the inmates forced their way in here. One of the officers was very severely beaten, and they then got into this room right over here. And this was a probation and parole officer's room, and it was the offices for the staff as well. And one of the things that happened is that they got a hold of a sledgehammer. And over here on the wall, you can see, right in this area, you can see where they pounded through the wall right here. And they broke into this area, and the skinniest of the bunch went through there. They gained access to the cells, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes, and they actually killed Walter Lee Donnell with a hammer. Here's a cell that Walter Lee Donnell and the other inmate were in, these two cells, at the time that they were murdered. There have been some pretty interesting people that have served time here behind the walls. Charles Arthur Pretty Boy Floyd arrived here in 1925 from St. Louis for armed robbery, and of course he became very infamous. After he got out of prison here, he was involved in the Kansas City Union Station massacre. Adam Rocchetti was later on in this prison, and he was down there on death row, and he was execution number 6 in 1938, and he was the driver for Pretty Boy Floyd in the Kansas City Union Station massacre. We also had James Earl Ray here, and he came here about 1960 for armed robbery. James Earl Ray, there was nothing really significant about him that made him stand out from what I'd been told. That was the, he came here before I was here. But of course, he became infamous in 1968 when he killed Dr. Martin Luther King. He escaped out of this prison in April 1967. Sonny Liston did time here, and he was over there in A Hall, cell 33. Came here in 1950 for armed robbery. I believe Sonny was like 14 or 15 children. He was illiterate. The staff here actually helped him with his boxing career and helped him to obtain a parole because they saw that this man had tremendous talent. Memories are what this place is about, and it's about those people and those memories that mean so much to me, and that's why I hope that it's available for people to come from all over the United States to see this prison and to understand the history and the stories that made it.